Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Deshotel, Head of Solution Architecture at Devtron. And today I'm excited to be talking with you at the Canadian DevOps Summit. We're going to be going over unifying and enhancing the most trusted open source DevOps solutions in a single delivery platform. So, a little bit about myself. I've been working in the cloud native and DevOps space since 2018. I got my start in cloud at GitLab on the enterprise sales team. I've also worked at Western Governors University as a senior cloud engineer and Spot.io by NetApp as a senior solutions architect. In my free time lately, I've been learning about IoT automation, automating some different mechanisms in my saltwater and reef tanks, as well as learning about computer vision in my spare time. I've also, as you can see in this picture here, have two of the cutest dogs. That's Cash the Pomeranian and Lily the Husky. They're my helpers here. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can do so via my LinkedIn. It's just Jeremy-D, or you can email me at jeremy@devtron.ai. So again, today we're going to be talking about unifying and enhancing some of the most kind of the best of breed open source tools, but doing so in a single pane of glass or a single delivery platform. There's a saying that goes, the things that are free tend to be the ones that you pay the most for. And that can also be true when it comes to open source software. If we're talking about a SDLC toolchain and we're talking about building and maintaining tons of integrations, patching and updating, not to mention having to go to all of these different tools independently to try and track down things like logs or metrics or alerts or vulnerability scans or pipelines, it can really get quite cumbersome, and the constant context switching can really slow us down. So the things that these issues result in are lower developer productivity overall, longer times to resolution, slower onboarding for new engineers, and this all results in slower delivery of software. So at Devtron, what we've done is a little bit different. We've created a single pane of glass, a all-in-one software delivery platform for Kubernetes native applications based on the best of breed open source solutions. It's also very modular. So for any third party or enterprise solutions you might already be using, those can be plugged in and operate seamlessly. So rather than go through a ton of slides, we're actually just going to hop right into the platform. And I'm going to give you guys a look at what that looks like under the hood. So whenever I log in, I'm greeted by a list of all of the applications that I have access to. And if I go ahead and click on one, go over here to overview, what I can see first is I've got a description of my application, any mandatory tagging, some external links to quickly access things like documentation, APM tools, etc., as well as where my application is deployed, all of the different environments it's deployed into, the health check of that application, as well as when it was last deployed. But when we're talking about unifying all of these solutions, this is what really comes to mind, is this single pane of glass. So as you can see here, I can select my environment for my app, and quickly I'm greeted by things like the current health of the application, the most recent deployment status, where I can view all of the different stages of a GitOps deployment. I've got all of my metrics for this application that I can quickly separate either by pod or as an aggregate of all the pods in the app. I've got access to my commit info here, as well as all of the Kubernetes resources. Now, when we're looking at things like debugging, this is our prod application. Let's say we need to debug this application in prod. Well, I've got logs here for my app. I can open up a terminal into my application, but if I'm ensuring that my application is as lightweight as possible, that it's got everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't, I might not have the utilities built into this image that I can do proper debugging. Well, that's where a great feature called ephemeral containers comes into play. And what this will allow us to do, we can specify a custom image, but we've got some preloaded ones here. This effectively just has all of the Kubernetes utilities that one might need to debug an app. And I can point it at my target container for my application. And what this will do is this will actually launch a container in the same pod that I can quickly use to do any debugging, any troubleshooting. And then as soon as I get out of that terminal, it will be torn down. So great feature for debugging. Now, if we look at the pipelines, this is another thing that I don't want to have to log into another tool, another platform to see the status of my pipelines and, what the latest build logs look like, if we've got any failure conditions, any new vulnerabilities we need to look into. And so what I can quickly do is I can look at the last build of any of these pipelines. I can look at the build logs. I've got access to the code right here. I can pull the image that was built, and I can look at the results of security scans. So we use Trivy and Claire to do vulnerability assessments, and I can quickly go to that CVE, see if there's a patch or an update for it, and take it from there. Going back to my app details, those external links that we saw in the overview page are also right here. So I can quickly pan over and get the metrics and monitoring I need. I can look at deployment history. And just like I can with my builds, see the steps that took place, see the configuration of my deployment, and quickly look for any diffs between versions if I'm going to need to roll back. So for instance, I'll have my diffs here. Let's say I need to roll back. I can go to my pipeline page, find an application that I might need to roll back, look at all the images for approval, and I can request approval. The reason I need to request approval is because this specific pipeline actually has a manual approval step configured. Let's say I needed to roll back on another one. I can view all my images, find a particular version that I want to roll back to, and see the config diff. I can quickly identify those diffs in the configuration as well as secrets or pipeline configuration. And then I can determine if I want to deploy with the last deployed configuration, the configuration associated with this previous image, or any other one. Now, let's say I'm not deploying via GitOps with Argo CD. Let's say I want to have a way to manage my Helm charts easier. We've also got this chart store feature where out of the box, Devtron is going to come preloaded with a bunch of open source charts. In addition to this, you can easily add a chart source. So you can add any OCI registry, any public or private chart repositories that you might want to use, and effectively limit via guardrails and policies which charts developers can deploy and which values in those charts they can override and input their own values. So if I wanted to deploy one of these, I can go in here into configure and deploy. And so I've got a GUI version that just gives me the parameters of what I can input. I've also got the custom YAML that I can edit, and then the manifest output is generated. In addition to single charts, another feature that we have is this concept of chart groups. And so, for instance, there's a big difference between a freshly spun up Kubernetes cluster and one that actually is ready to receive applications, to scale, to provide me with the telemetry I need to debug things. And so, for example, we've got this Kube Infra chart group. What this will do is with one click, it will allow me to deploy metric server, autoscaler, and Prometheus and have them all configured. Again, I would just select my project, select what environment I wanted to deploy it to, and which application names I want, and deploy that chart. So this is a great way to effectively create like a golden path for my developers. Maybe in dev, I want to allow them to override the values and deploy any of these freely. Maybe a smaller subset in stage with more restrictions around those parameters, and then have it relatively locked down in prod. This allows you to, again, shift left and give your developers that freedom while still maintaining best practices. From a resource management and observability standpoint, we've also got this resource browser, similar to like a Lens type tool or a Kubernetes dashboard, where we can look at all of our different deployments, our applications, see what's running, and have that visibility into all of these. I can edit the manifest live or create a new YAML file and deploy via that way. And so it's going to have all of the same permissions that you would have, again, using one of those tools. Lastly, because Devtron is not only multi-cloud, but also multi-cluster, within one install, I can be configured for many clusters. We've got this great feature called the bulk edit, where we can actually take and filter out Kubernetes objects across our entire environment, our entire infrastructure. And then what we can do is deploy updates to deployments, updates to configurations, updates to secrets, all from this one form here. Now, obviously, everything I'm showing you is via the UI, but this can be done via CLI or API as well. And that's just a little tour of Devtron. It's the open source solution that unifies and enhances some of the best open source tools out there, bringing it to you in a single pane of glass. So, hope you enjoyed this little overview. Again, if you have any questions, if you'd like to learn more, you can visit us at devtron.ai or reach out to me via LinkedIn or email. Thank you.